do you accept that if you receive a benefit from public money that you should be very open, that you should be accountable, and that you should act in the public interest as a charity?
Absolutely. No question, Senator.
And you operate under New Zealand without any problems. Now I'm happy with that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Might come back with more if there's time.
Thank you. Senator Xenophon.
Thank you, Mr. Ferriss. You said that Scientology, before the operation of the UK's the New Zealand Charities Commission's laws, had an income, I think Senator Cameron pointed out, about 2.5 million, 2.6 million. Is that right, Senator Cameron?
Yeah, that was last...
in the last year before it, and then there was a drop to...
2.6, sorry, Senator Xenophon, 2.623 million in 2007 and 374,000 in 2008.
Yes, that's right.
And that was a big drop in the exchange rate.
And I think, Mr. Ferriss, you ascribed that to the exchange rate. Do you want to reconsider your evidence in relation to that? You suggested...
I would take that on notice.
But that would mean a drop in the value of the New Zealand dollar in the order of...
Against the US dollar.
Against the US dollar in the order of 70 or 80%. More than that, it would be a complete collapse of the New Zealand dollar.
I don't follow the currency fluctuations particularly, and I'm not the church's accountant, and I haven't brought them with me today, so I'd like to take those questions on notice.
Did the church change its accounting practices in the year before the New Zealand charities laws came into place and subsequent to that?
No, not
so
at all.
The books are being kept the same way, so there's
Absolutely.
no... And you don't know of any other cause for such a dramatic drop in revenue or income?
Well, I'm not going to speculate off the top of my head on this matter. I think I'd like to take that on notice. I'm very happy to provide the information to the committee, and I'd like to make sure it is correct information.
You understand it seems quite a dramatic drop.
Absolutely, I understand that. I also know something about our accounts, but like I say, I'm not the accountant, and I haven't brought them with me. So, yeah.
We'll leave that aspect of it. Ms. McBride, can I just ask, in terms of your submission, you argue that the bill is unconstitutional because it quote, imposes taxation, therefore cannot originate in the Senate under Section 53 of the Constitution. The committee's been advised that Section 53 is not justiciable, and it's for Parliament to interpret how it deals with proposed laws rather than laws. How do you respond to that?
Well, I believe that there are two views on whether or not it's justiciable or not, and that goes back to the Attorney General's advice in 1993. But Parliament has a set of rules that say tax bills need to be originated in the House by a minister because they are tax bills. And you're making a mockery of that, aren't you, by saying we don't care, we're just going to originate it here anyway?
Just hold on, Ms. McBride. Ms. McBride, that's really, I would have thought, quite unprofessional of you to say that they're making a mockery of laws. The committee this has gone to the Scrutiny of Bills Committee. The Scrutiny of Bills Committee said it's quite appropriate for this bill to be heard by this committee.
I understand that.
So if I'm making a mockery of it, so is the Senate Scrutiny of Bills Committee,
well,
so is this committee, and so indeed is the entire Senate.
Well, have you asked the Attorney General? It's not just 53, it's also Section 55. Have you obtained advice from the Attorney General or the Solicitor General, or has it gone to the Constitutional Bills Committee? It may not be justiciable by a court, but it is certainly not what the Constitution or parliamentary privilege practice has been in the past. Bills, tax bills, are supposed to be originated in the House by a minister or the parliamentary secretary. This bill has not been originated by either a minister, the parliamentary secretary, and it is not in the House.
Can I suggest to you that if the bill does not impose a new tax, it merely deals with the administration of exemptions granted to a tax, how would that contradict Section 53? And further, sorry, if we can just point out that it is not the role of the Senate as a House of Review to be obtaining advice from the executive arm of government.
No, but given that this is an inquiry and you can obtain advice from Treasury, I would have thought you would have sought advice from the Attorney General or somebody, indeed, one of the chief counsel of that department. That's the answer to that issue. The fact is, religions have never been subject to tax under any federal tax bill since 1915. This bill proposes to tax religions. You are not removing an exemption. You are proposing a tax on religions.
So you're suggesting, I know Mr. Lind, who gave evidence earlier today, said that in relation to, and he actually, I think his firm acts for a number of charities and is concerned with administrative burdens in respect to that. He said, he posed the question, does freedom of religion mean freedom from tax? And his answer was no. Do you disagree with that?
I think far greater minds than mine, and I refer you to the High Court's judgment in the Commission of New Faith, the Church of the New Faith and the Commission of Payroll Tax, discussed at length, and they would say yes.
So perhaps I can put it to Ms. Stewart. Ms. Stewart, are you saying that the whole concept of freedom of religion is tied up with the freedom from paying tax? Is that you're endorsing what Ms. McBride is saying? In other words, if you don't pay, freedom of religion is tied up with the concept of the freedom from paying tax.
No, may I? That's the High. I think again, I refer you, and I have copies of the High Court's judgment. I think you should read that with care. But that is not what the court said. But what the court made very clear was, and what the bill is attempting to do, is determine which religion is worthy of a tax concession and which religion isn't. Which charity is worthy of a tax concession and which charity isn't. That does fly in the face of 116, because that is a subjective test. And the court, which was considering a tax bill, went into great lengths. And the reason why special leave was granted in that case was to determine government policy or public policy, because there was a paucity of authority on that area. So I think the court said quite firmly, all judges, no matter what you think of the religion, no matter how foolish you may think the religion is, you cannot and should not discriminate, and they were talking about tax. So their view, and given it was a full court and it was unanimous, and they were very great brains on that court, would say yes, in the context of a tax concession, to quote Murphy, one in, all in. You leave one out, you leave them all out.
And you don't see any criteria if, for instance, I think an extreme example was given earlier that to the New Zealand, the Chief Executive of the New Zealand Charities Commission, that if an organisation had human or animal sacrifice as one of its core beliefs, that would be something that would be of concern to them in terms of tax-free status. You don't see that as an issue?
I think the High Court, again, I commend you to read that judgment.
I've read the judgment.
Several times, clearly. I think the High Court said you're not above the law. The law in this country you would not have a defence to say, I'm a Mormon, I have 10 wives in this country because I'm allowed to under my religion. You know, you have to actually abide by the law. If our law outlaws the sacrifice of humans or animals, which I believe it does, then you wouldn't be entitled to practice that. And I'm sure that the Commissioner's current ruling on charities says at paragraph 100 that things that are illegal are not charitable and therefore do not get the tax concession.
And if the law says that in order to get a tax concession you need to weigh up the whole concept of a public benefit test as applies in the United Kingdom and more recently in New Zealand, that would be the law that would have to be applied, wouldn't it?
yes, that would be the law that would have to be applied.
Yes. So therefore, so the issue of public benefit would of necessity need to look at issues of detriment as well, wouldn't it?